under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Larry Fiddler,
Here.
Cindy Holland, Greg J,
Here.
Brandon Tanka,
Here. And is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I have two things to delete. If we could delete 8C, the resolution 2022-7 on the back side, that's not ready yet. And also 10B, the employee handbook, that's still being worked on.
Do I have approval for the amended agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Approval of the minutes from June 7th, regular meeting. Do I have an approval? Or any discussion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Claims and transfers.
From the general, $252,014.01.
Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
From the water, $67,328.81.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
From the wastewater, $120,295.18.
Do I have a motion?
A motion. I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
And payroll, $47,546.32.
All in favor?
Motion.
Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Communications. Done, Mark.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have been extremely busy this summer. We've got a lot of arrests, a lot of driving while suspended, a lot of drug arrests. We're up to right now over 2,307 calls for service, agency assists 142, and a total of 1,835 police services. Made 401 traffic arrests and 537 warnings. Currently, we're at 7 DUI arrests, we worked 9 crashes, I'm sorry, 73 crashes, and made 9 crash arrests. We've served 95 warrants, and we currently have 104 misdemeanor arrests and 72 felony arrests. So they're pretty active out there. We've got, I know on the agenda we're showing a couple items, one of them being the dog, and at this point, we've collected some money for the second canine. We'll tell if Sam, in the time we've been waiting on this, he is going in for a final interview tomorrow, I believe, with Greencastle Police Department, and may be getting hired away by Greencastle PD. So we'll find out the outcome of that. And we've also got a couple other departments that have approached some of our other reserves. So we train them, we get them, we train them, and we may be losing them. So we'll have to see how that washes out. Probably the last time, I know we've been a hot topic on Kent's car. We've had that car for like 9-10 months, and we've got to figure out a way of getting that thing plated.
First, I think you should take that as a compliment that people are stealing your reserves.
Yes, sir.
So, and as far as Kent's car, as we talked before the meeting, once we get that from that person.
I think we better have Plan B, because I've been trying for 6 months to get that from them.
So
And we talked about a dollar purchase thing that we might be able to do.
right, you proposed him selling the vehicle to the town for $1, and that's doable. In that same proposal, though, you wanted him to be able to buy it back for $1.
And you can't do that.
Well, you can't do that.
Right.
The town would have to declare a surplus property, and then you'd have to open it up for bids for anybody to buy it. So he's more than welcome to sell to the town for $1, but the likelihood of getting that car back for $1 is not likely.
What if he were to then, he's already sold the town for $1, so if we put it into the fleet that one time, he would basically donate the car to the fleet. Is that correct?
Pretty much.
So if he was, and I'm picking up where Steve left off, again, I don't know. If he was to donate it to the town,
Not a problem.
and the time comes to where he's retiring or whatever, or moving to another town, we as the town, are we able to give that car right back to him?
No. Because it's town property.
Property surplus.
Okay.
You'd have to declare, so whether he sells it to the town or he gives it to the town, once it's town property, the town would have to declare it surplus, and then they would have to, you could sell it at auction, you could do bids like we did for those trucks the other couple meetings ago. You just can't give municipal property away.
And the third option would be to find a leasing company that you could run the car through as a leasing company.
Well, so that's how this also, a little history for you. There's, what's the name of the town, Steve?
Steinsville.
Steinsville. Steinsville had a situation where a reserve leased the vehicle to the town. And Steve learned about that, so we'll get that agreement and we'll do something similar. So he got me an agreement. It wasn't the town's agreement, but it was like the town's agreement. And we passed it. Kelly took it to the DMV, and because it changed in the law in the last 5 years, they really tightened up the leasing agreements, and since it wasn't a leasing company, they rejected it, we couldn't plate it, we couldn't insure it. So I went back to Steve and said, get me the actual agreement that they use, and let's see.
It actually is insured, I believe.
No,
It is insured.
it is finally
Yeah,
insured.
no, it's been insured the whole time.
Okay. It's just not titled in the town.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not registered, it's not registered to the town or has a proper license plate on
Okay. So it's just a regular license plate. I thought there was a situation where there was a municipal plate on it.
There is one. It's the one that, we have a whole bunch of municipal plates. And I
Don't the
think
plates have to match the car?
they're supposed to, yes. It just hasn't been registered to the car.
Okay, so, okay. I would think we'll talk about that, but, so, I forget what I apologize, that the titling the car kind of threw me for a loop. That's how we're.
We've got a set of municipal plates, so when we get the new cars, they go on there and we just get them registered, those plates go on those
Right,
cars.
the plates match the cars,
They match the cars.
but that car doesn't match.
Because you got 45 days to make that happen. And we're past that 45 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's parked sitting in the garage.
Yeah. But again, when we went to get it plated, we couldn't because it was a lease situation. And since it wasn't a leasing company, it was an individual, the B&B wouldn't let us title the car.
Okay. I'm going off of where I believe you made mention, I mean, what is, in your legal opinion, then what is the correct way to move past this issue?
For the council to determine that we need another reserve vehicle, that we buy a vehicle. And if it's Kent's vehicle, that's fine, but Kent's gotta know, we can't, the town just can't give it back. That's the problem.
Or to lease Kent's car through a leasing agent.
If you can find somebody to do that, that's, but you're asking a lease, yeah, if you get a leasing company to,
That's
I
lease
I don't want any part of that
Right.
transaction. But if a leasing company comes to the town with a lease for that vehicle, then
Or
that's,
if he formed his own LLC, he could do it.
if he sets up something and it's a leasing company,
That's how I know Fortville and one of the others up in Madison County, They're doing that. The officers form their own LLCs and they lease it down through the
And
LLC.
if the- as long as the BOD accepted it, that's fine. And we can go back to the original terms, but until that happens, you know, I feel like my role is to protect all of you, and I'm trying to protect all of you. You know, we're still not out of the woods on some litigation, and you don't want to be in litigation. You don't want to be in multiple pieces of litigation. You also don't want to get an audit from the state board of accounts. We want to avoid all of that. And I take it as my role is to try to prevent that from happening. So that's why I've been a stickler, and I apologize to you that this is taking so long, but the routes that they have asked me to look at haven't worked. The best way to do it is for the town council to say, we need another car, let's buy a car. But as we've all, I mean, I've been in enough of these meetings over the last year and a half where we don't have it in the budget. Even Steve said we're not gonna get another car for another year, 2 years, after the last canine vehicle. So, but if you can find a leasing company and do that deal, that's fine, just get the paperwork to Kelly and that's fine.
Now, that lease agreement could be for the $1, right?
Yeah, you can still do I think it was $120.
And at the end of the term, it just reverts back to the leasing.
Yeah,
sir.
leasing company.
So that's an option.
Yeah, but I would still like, what's concerning me is that this town hasn't given up that agreement, and Steve's asked for it multiple times.
Well, I showed you, I had a text message from this morning, same guy, yeah.
So why aren't they giving that up? I just, and first of all, leasing has become a very popular game in almost anything municipal because it's not debt. Terre Haute leases a bunch, if not all their cars. And there's leasing companies that'll lease you tires, they'll lease you whatever you want, because they win. So leasing is not a problem that's going on, and it's very common, but just what we were trying to do, since it wasn't a leasing company, that's where we got caught. So that's why, part of me, I'd rather, if you can find a leasing company to run that car through, that's fine. There's still a part of me wants to see that lease agreement, to see how they're doing it, because it doesn't seem like it's even possible. And in fact, if they're not handing over the documents,
That's questionable, so.
yeah.
What's for the lease route?
Let's
Yeah,
try,
I still want
if
to
you
do
can
that.
set up an LLC, Kent's Leasing or whatever, and
Yeah, like I said, I feel like it's my job to protect the people sitting at this table. And that's why I'm here. You don't want more litigation, you don't want an audit. The last thing you want is an audit.
and we do appreciate your due diligence in making
I
it
appreciate
right,
that.
so. It just sometimes delays things quite a bit, and we just want to try to move forward now, so I think we have a plan.
The fastest way is not always the best way. Unless you're running a race, obviously.
That's all I had.
So the K-9 is kind of on hold.
Right now, we've got the funds there, we need to find out, wait and see if he's gonna get hired on it with the other agency.
Does Greencastle already have a K-9?
They do not, right now.
Oh, Greencastle City.
So he brings a lot to the table.
He brings a lot to the table.
Okay, Bud? Fire chief?
Let's back up to the K-9. Let's go ahead and get an agreeable contract so that if things don't work out with Greencastle, we can move this thing forward and be done with it.
Yeah, about, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, the agreement came my way, and I just asked for a simple line to be added for termination language, that we could terminate at any time, or the officer.
Can you take that contract, clean it up, get it back?
I think I have it in a Word form, I don't know if I have it.
Just go ahead and do what we need to
Yeah.
add the line item, and then we can
That's
at
it.
least move forward on it and close it.
Very good. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, town manager.
Really quick. Mill Creek Meadows subdivision, if you've not been down there, they've got 4 foundations in. They're expecting delivery of homes as early as 2 weeks from now, where 6 initial homes will be constructed. So, real close on getting that done. The road is still not in. They're going to let the crane do its work before they actually put the pavement in. But the curves, all the infrastructure is in. Duke Energy contract, I emailed this to all of you, and I think you've got that in your packets as well. I've had conversations with, I think, a couple of you. That was an energy savings contract. We did, the deadline for that was it was in June 27th, I think. Did sign that. There were 2 separate contracts, one to do the lighting at the sewer treatment plant and the utility building. And then there was also a contract to do the lighting in the town hall. There was a grant that went along with that, and I don't have the numbers here, but I know you've got your packet. But both were 5 years or less return on investment, the payback. So that was done. They told me that would happen here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. They'll have a contract to come in and start replacing the lighting. They'll also provide the lighting for 5 years as well, so any bulbs that we might need or whatever, but it'll only LED. But I guess probably, I know we did that on email, so I guess I would ask that if you would pass that in a formal setting, because I did sign that after I got approval from Larry and I think Greg, who I talked to. If you're acceptable with that. And I know I emailed it to all the members, so you should have been able to see that.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve that?
Motion, we go ahead and approve the Duke contract.
Do I have a second? I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Anything else? Clerk treasurer.
You have the regular monthly reports in your packet. Just a couple things I'd like to point out. First of all, on the revenue report, you will notice that top line item, we did receive our property tax payment in June. So that was nice, we have that now. The appropriation report, I would just point out, Steve and I met the other day as well, and he's aware of this. Police operating supplies, their budget line is at 35%. We're at half the year, so it should be at 50%. And we've got 35% left, and the repair and maintenance is at 35%. And we talked about that. He knows what his budget is and the line items.
Fuels. Charges.
It's coming down though.
It's coming down.
Not fast enough. The next thing is the claims, and I'll let Jason take over from here. Well, I'll go to the first one, it's voice, and that is our software renewal. That's the software program that we use for all our finances and in the utility office. And that's it's the annual renewal, and so that's there for approval.
How much did that go up from last year?
You know, I didn't even look. I'm sorry.
It was right at 9,000.
That's what I thought, that's why.
Yeah, I think it's up some.
96.15.
Do I have approval to pay this?
Motion?
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then Jason, you want to take over the rest of the invoices?
We have things that are on the agenda. All of these are related to either edge materials or Mill Creek subdivision, so it's water. And I believe that's all. Yes. I will tell you that we did send a invoice out to Edge Materials, so about $8,000 will be reimbursed to us. And I don't, did I give it to you yet, Kelly, by the way?
No.
Okay, I've got it there in my desk. And we met with Eric Heyman about that today. So we're all in agreement. We went a line item by line item what it is. So it's about $8,000 of this will be received back. Also, we will be billing the developer Doe Creek as well.
Right.
So some of this has not been billed back yet to them, but we will, most of this stuff is going to be covered. But the first claim, I don't know if you do them individually or how, but one is $3358.75. The next one is $1849.20. The next one is $2980.83. And the last one was $2769.62. These were all over 1,500, that's why they're coming to you for approval. But the biggest part of these is it will be reimbursed to us.
Okay, can we just do that under one motion?
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to approve utility supply invoices?
I make a motion?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Now, there were a couple claims that came in after the agenda was already set, and I added those to your packets, I believe, today, and it says late edition in bold print right after it.
And I've got the,
Yep, perfect.
the first was, and I've had this conversation with Larry, we had a water leak out on Cemetery Road on June the 30th, and the water leak just happened to be on top of the hill with someone's home just down below the hill, probably 10 feet below the hill, and we flooded the house with our water leak. It's a water main that comes from the plant to town. So it was a pretty substantial amount of water that went into the house. I had contacted the service master in Greencastle. They came out, they did, this is the property of Kevin Lots, Lots.
Lots.
Lots. Well, we've got Lots here in town too. So I keep getting a few. This is under the threshold, but I wanted you guys to be aware of it. It was $700.84 is what that was to have the water cleaned up. They vacuumed it up. The second part of that is there was damage to their carpet, and I got a quote today that they emailed me. This was from Kevin and Jenny. $3,407.62. That is for the carpet damage and padding damage and new installation. Briefly had a conversation with our council about this, and I think his recommendation is to reimburse them for the
That's not
damage.
released, man. According to Jason and our water utility operator, this is our water in someone's home. And I don't think we need any more problems right now. Everyone seems to be getting along. And hopefully it appears our water went into their home. Along with water debris. I'd say we're lucky that it was $133.
So I would make a motion that we go ahead and pay it with Richard and writing a release.
One thing I'll mention too, they did include 7% sales tax on here. We can, if we pay it directly, we'll reduce that by $153.
Okay.
And I think we prefer to do that.
Yeah.
Kelly, is that okay to pay directly to them rather than to the homeowner?
Oh, yes, to the
Yeah,
company,
it'll
absolutely.
save us 7%.
Mhm, yes.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Anything else, Jason?
Yeah, I do. These came today. One from Utility Supply. This was $1,636.22. This supplies that we actually used on that water leak. So there's high max coupling and gasket joint, but it was over 1,500, so it needs your approval.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve this?
I'll motion to go ahead and pay the material.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And then the last one that I have, and Kelly, I have not even talked to you about this yet. Well, we have, but this is UMAC. I haven't had, I don't think you have that in the packet, but I briefly talked about it.
No, okay.
And we can discuss this again at the next meeting. We did have in September of '21, the council voted to run a sewer main under Stardust Road to Seabark C. We had a quote of, well, to run an 8-inch, it was $10,793, but we ended up running a 6-inch. So it would have been less than the pipe size. During construction, the contractor did run into rock as they were boring under Stardust Road, and the bill we received was $22,632. I did have a conversation with the contractor, expressed my concern during the whole process. We didn't necessarily know it was going to be substantially more, three times more. Well, I don't know what exactly a 6-inch, but it was going to be less than a 10. So it's quite a bit more than we anticipated. I did ask him to look back at the invoice and make sure that that was correct on what they were billing, and he assured me that was correct. It doesn't mean that I can't still maybe negotiate something, but that seems pretty high. We knew they did tell us they had run into rock. Never did I anticipate that it was going to be this much more. So.
And we went with 6-inch rather than 8.
Yeah, we went,
So we should have been.
It should have been
that much less.
Was no coring done
No.
prior to?
No. Just went on track.
I don't see how that's our responsibility.
well,
As far as the rock being excessive, that's a liability they take on themselves, right?
That's hence the reason for the.
We asked for a quote. They submitted a quote based on 8-inch pipe. They went with a lesser diameter pipe. And their
that
bill
will
is,
hurt on us. But
okay, and their bill is, you said 2 times, maybe 3 times higher?
yeah,
Because of density?
because of the rock they run into.
I think we need to negotiate further.
Well, it's,
We need to have Richard
I
get
assume this
involved.
company's done it before in our area.
Yeah, actually, this is the same company that our water, our wastewater. on.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not a secret that there's,
Limestone here.
yeah,
And the reason for the quote was so we had an estimated cost.
Right. I think you've got some
I can see that. Please.
negotiating.
We have a lot of negotiating room.
I mean, they're clearly stating just had trouble boring and steering due to rock. That's it. It's just my opinion.
That's valid opinion.
Let's let them talk to them, and we'll talk about it next
Yeah,
month.
let's table that for a month.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that bill, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And we knew that they were experienced truck, because they were out there longer than they were anticipating.
About 3 times.
Yeah, but I never did speak with anybody, no one ever called me and said, hey, it looks like we're gonna be substantially over.
Our quote's no good.
And honestly, it probably in the end result wouldn't have been any different. Because, you know, you get to boring, what choice do you have? It just continue, most likely. But I just kind of would have liked to have been kept abreast of it, so that I could let you guys know, hey, this is the situation we're running
I
in.
think let's
Because we were gonna have to bore, well, we didn't have to bore, but we really didn't want to dig up Stardust Road, a brand new.
Yeah, do you
Road.
want to cut the road?
How deep were they going?
They probably went 8 foot probably at the creek, because they had to go under, there's a creek there on the south side of Stardust Road, and they did have to go under that creek. But we knew that.
That was
and
part
they
of-
knew
That was all part of the
Yeah, they knew
original,
that as
that
well.
was all part of the original quote.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I think we need to hold them to the original quote.
I don't think it was the creek that was the issue. It was, I think they got under the road and.
Shame on them, they should have.
Clearly says it.
That's why they provided us a quote.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing with you in any way.
See what you can do.
That's why I'm bringing it to you. I think ultimately probably we would have been in this situation with that price anyway. I just would have been much easier had we been able to say, yes,
Having
please
been the
continue.
decision maker, not just
Recipient of after fact.
recipient
I
of
think it says it's gonna
the
be 25,000 unless we don't hit rock. But instead, they said it's gonna be 13 or whatever that is, and we found rock.
Had they have written a quote stating that,
Yeah.
it would have also helped.
Well, the fact that they're our operator, they should know our area better than anybody.
Yeah, they just operate the, I mean, I'm not defending them in any way, but as far as the operator, they're just the water treatment, or the sewer treatment plant operator, so they're really not.
But they have done some
They have-
repairs in the area.
Correct, they have done some digs for us.
Talk to them. See what they say.
And that's all I have with claims.
I think there's one more invoice, I think, invoice 1407637, it's also a utility supply, that was a late addition as well, it was a Doe Creek addition. Should be paper clipped with the ones that sit down on the agenda.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I thought it was one. Yeah, this was the second part of, this were the yolks. We are getting, if you remember, these are what we thought we wouldn't get them in time. It was $4,764.36. It was for 12 of the yolks. These are the ones that we, as a matter of fact, we're still waiting on 2 to get us to the 19. So 2 more, and we'll have enough to be able to do the entire subdivision. So now we probably won't get reimbursed until they do the tap fees on all of those, but we wanted to have them in advance, so we do have full inventory. So, sorry, I didn't realize they were 2 separate ones.
Okay, do you have approval for this motion?
All motion, we go ahead and pay it?
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
That's it for the claims. Budget, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, but I'd like to mention it again, and hopefully we can get some. I need council to appoint 2 members to help with the budget process. Basically, this is what we do every year. We just, 2 council members, the department heads, and then myself and my deputy, and we all sit down and hash out the budget for that department for the next year, upcoming year. So I appreciate if the council would appoint two members who would be willing to sit in on that and be aware of how things are going with money.
How much time is involved in
Well, I'd say at least an hour or so per department, so
Okay.
a couple hours. Yeah.
that? 30 months. I was just making sure what's in days.
Oh, well, I mean, we usually schedule them out on different days, so like if, one day it's down with the police department, hash out, an hour, a couple hours, work things out, and then we'll have, another one with the park and another one with, town managers.
If the council doesn't mind, I would like to put my name in this.
Okay, I was going to ask for volunteers.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Cindy? I will.
Okay, so Brandon and Larry. Thank you. And then also, I just want to make mention, the public hearing, what I've tentatively scheduled is our public hearing for the budget process will be at our regularly scheduled meeting in September, on September 13th. And then the adoption hearing for the budget would be October 11th. These all have to be timed out per the budget process. So this meets the requirements without us having to schedule a special meeting for council to come to. But I do want to make you aware, that means, especially since we're down a council member, and Greg is not allowed to participate in the budget because he's a member of the volunteer fire department. So that means the other 3 remaining council members must be here on those 2 dates, on September 13th and October 11th, for our budget to pass this year. So if those dates are a problem, if somebody has a vacation planned or a work schedule where they can't come to these meetings, please let me know as soon as possible, and we'll rework the dates and reschedule that, so our budget will pass this
You
year.
don't anticipate an appointment in the vacancy by that time?
We hope so.
Yeah, we
Okay.
should.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we should. But if that's an issue, at least we'll have these three and then we'll know for sure we'll be okay. So anyways, I just want to throw those dates out there. And that's all I have.
Okay, is there a report from the planning BZA?
It did not be.
Okay. Park board. Park board does have a vacancy. If anyone is interested in being on the park board, contact the office.
Roy wants may be interested in that.
Is that
Roy,
Roy?
he reached out to me a couple of weeks ago asking if we needed any free positions.
Okay,
So I'll reach out to him.
okay. Ordinances and resolutions. Jason.
I think we were holding on 22-6. But-
Still?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still gonna have to advertise up here if we're gonna go through with that. But ordinance 22-9, that was something that's happened recently. And our town code, I don't think addresses this. So I put something together that I think can address the issue. I'll explain what that is here in a second. Kind of ran it by Kelly, and then I also and I just drafted this ordinance, sent it to Mr. Shagley this morning. So we haven't put a whole lot of effort into this at this point. I just wanted you to see what it was and see if it's something you want to address. But I'll kind of give you the background. On disconnect day, if someone is involuntary disconnected, our policy currently is at 9 o'clock, we will give the disconnect cards to Richard, Brad, Bradley, whomever, to go out and do disconnects. And obviously, if we got 15 disconnects, one gets 8, the other one gets 7. Sometimes it takes a while to go shut off 8 people. So that 8th person, it may be 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock before they get disconnected. Well, then they come in and Susie's collecting the money because they've come in to pay, and they say, well, I've never been actually disconnected. Well, it wasn't because they weren't supposed to be disconnected, it's because you don't have the manpower to actually do it physically at 9 o'clock. So what this language does would define that disconnected means 9 o'clock. And I'll read kind of how I said it. Utility services shall be considered disconnected at 9 o'clock on the date listed on the disconnect list. If connection of utility services is desired by the customer, the reconnection fee shall be charged to the customer regardless of whether the physical disconnection has or has not occurred. Now, part of it is equity too. You know, it's kind of unfair for that person that actually gets it at 9 o'clock and the person at 10:30 still hasn't been disconnected, even though they're supposed to be disconnected at 9 o'clock. So this is just basically saying 9 o'clock, you're paying a reconnect fee, whether it was actually, we're considering it disconnected at 9 o'clock, whether the guys have actually gone out there and turned it and locked it off or not.
Right.
Because we've run into this more than one time, and the last person was pretty upset and said, we can fix this. So,
And I think, as Jason, I've been looking at it, I think that whole section could use a little cleanup. You said that ordinance and then the code section, the complete section, and you guessing on some of it. It's loose.
and this, I'm not asking for this necessarily to be adopted
Yeah.
tonight. This is, I just want you to look at it and
But I think this is a good cleanup and a necessary cleanup to avoid a lot of confusion, because if you were to read that, you could take a lot of things a lot of different ways. And that's not what you want in your municipal code, or any code for that matter. So it's just, I think this is more just a heads up, this will probably be in front of you next month as a revision to the code for this section. So your spare time, take a look at 50.43.
it just cleans it up. That's my thought. It makes it fair. So if the person that gets disconnected.
No, I think it makes sense to have a disconnect time, and that's when it's effective.
Correct. Because this person's argument was, you know, honestly, although I don't think he should have had that disconnect charge waived, I look at our code and,
It's great.
yeah, and I say, well, it has not physically been disconnected. So we did not charge him the $75.
So I think absolutely, it's the 9 AM.
Yeah,
If you're in for disconnect, it's disconnected.
At 9 o'clock. So whether it's actually been
Whether it's
physically
physical
disconnected,
disconnect,
in our policy says.
The order
we're
is in.
disconnected. Correct.
Because then it's just a matter of where you fall on the line of disconnections.
That's exactly, and we've had it happen more than once since I've been here.
If you live closest to the sewer utility where they start, you maybe.
Or they don't have an emergency dig, or
Yeah.
something, whatever the
Exactly
case
right.
may be, so.
But it'll sure help Susie, and she's all for the policy, so.
You're going to make it easier for them to be able to answer questions and explain it to people when they come in.
It's cut and dry.
Yeah.
9 o'clock.
So, I'm not asking for anything to be adopted tonight, but I just wanted you to be aware that that's an issue that we're working on.
Okay, resolution 2022-8.
This has to do with, the utility has always been required to pay URT, utility receipts tax. The House in their last session passed a law repealing that, doing away with, so that we're no longer required to do that. Part of their requirement was that savings in theory be passed along to the customer, that we would make a line item wherever we were charging that line, they would not be charged anymore, and that were required to put on the next two bills, that was brought to you courtesy of the House Enrolled Act, and it's got the number. Our bills do not have a specific line item that says this is your URT tax. When our rate studies were done last time, they were all rolled into one and lump summed. So we sent all that information to our financial guys who have been working on different rates and things for us. They looked at everything and looked at because ours hadn't been separated out, and looked at the cost of what it was costing us to run our utility and what our rates were. And they said that it would, instead of giving that money back directly to the customer, what would be best was to just incorporate it into our rates, how it already is, and that way we would not have to raise rates for our customers. We could still keep status quo, even though the cost of everything is going up. I averaged what we pay for utility receipts tax, and averaged it per customer, and the simple average, it would have saved the customers 50 cents on their bill each month. Another example, we have been the benefit of that on our Center Point bill for the town. We have about 4 bills with them, and we saved a penny this month when they took off our URT tax. So, the financial company, and then I sent this also to Attorney Shagley, and he looked it over. This would be a resolution saying that we are complying with the state's laws, that we have looked at the URT tax, and that essentially we would be, I think they use the word de minimis in here, and that's all the legal, if it's the legal requirements of what the state is asking us to do without hurting the town customers.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Make a motion, we go ahead and approve it.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
There's 2 copies in there, if you please sign both of them.
And resolution 2022-9.
This is just a formality saying that we are joining the A Medical Trust again. It's just another part of it, even though you've already accepted that, we've already accepted the insurance. A resolution had to be formally passed stating that that was your intent.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve 2022-9?
Motion will go ahead and accept it as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And there are 2 copies in there as well.
Is that all you have, Kelly?
Yes.
New business, Andrew O'Hare.
Good evening, everyone. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I know this is one of the favorite topics for everyone to talk about insurance. I have placed a little handout in front of you. Real quick recap, I'm sure Kelly has communicated a little bit of what's going on. As many of you know, we've had a rough couple of years with some claims and some litigation and some other items. It's something that this year has frankly caught up with us. So a little basic insurance 101 from my ISU days. One of the first things I learned was insurance is kind of the claims are looked at based on frequency and severity. They don't like a whole lot of little claims, but they would rather have one big claim. These past couple of years, it's caught up with us, and we've had both. We've had some frequency, and then we did have a pretty big one that you all are familiar with here recently. So I don't know if Kelly communicated this, I assume probably, but we did receive a non-renewal notice from the current carrier here 45 days ago. I was a little disappointed, but then I started digging into it and got some back-end information on some of these, and it was like, well, I get it. So it's a combination of, we've had a lot of claims, we had a really big claim, and the insurance market is very hard right now. It's been firming drastically as the economy kind of gets a little up and down. Things change in insurance too. It's happening across the board, not just in municipality business, commercial business, home and auto. A lot of you might be seeing home rates go up a little bit. So that's negative. It's kind of a perfect storm. But what I've put, the first page of what I handed out is our absolute worst case scenario come August 6th. Kelly had really hoped to have final numbers and a plan in by tonight. Unfortunately, it just wasn't realistic. And we had a couple of carriers that we really think are going to come in strong, that when I pushed them and said, I've got to have it, they said, okay, we'll close our file. And it's like, okay, well, never mind, let's wait and see, because we want to get the best. So, really banking on EMC as one of our carriers to come in pretty strong. And I've got a marking on toward the back that we'll get to. But a little bit about our, what I'll call the worst case scenario for tonight's purposes. If there was nothing else that I had to offer, I would come to you tonight and say we need to make a change on the package policy to Trident, and probably make a change from IPEP to BITCO on the workers' comp. Your workers' comp would actually see a decrease this year, so I'll really highlight that, it would drop. Your work comp performance has been very, very strong. You currently have a 0.84 risk modification factor from the state of Indiana, which means any company that we send this to, you're going to be getting a discount off of that. You've had, knock on wood, we've had very good success and not a lot of on-the-job injuries. So that's been a strong point, and it's reflected on, you know, a potential lower rate this year on the workers' comp. Trident would be the package recommendation that I would make if I had to today. I would have no problem, other than the price we'll talk about in a little bit, saying absolutely. I told Kelly today, we recently moved, I can say this publicly, Plainfield. We just switched Plainfield to them. That's a very profitable municipality. So this isn't like it's a high-risk carrier, which I was concerned about. When we received a non-renewal, we really examined the claims. I thought, wow, we might have to go to the excess and surplus lines market, which isn't always the end of the world, but it gets trickier. You have to look at coverage forms much closer because they can slide things in on you. You just have to be more careful. Trident is very reputable, well-known. They've been in the municipal business for quite some time. Our agency actually just gained access to them 4 years ago. They were one of the last municipal markets that we picked up. And we picked them up because we went from being HVG to Epic. And Epic actually owned by the same private equity as Trident. So we picked them out of that and kind of rounded out our arsenal. So that was a good thing. There's also another, and I can't publicly explain to Kelly, I haven't talked to the agent that assigned to this account for permission. But another municipality, a little bit southeast of here, it's quite a bit larger. We just moved into them as well. So, good company. As I told Kelly, right now I'm in negotiation with a couple of little coverage differences with them that I'm very confident we have worked out by August 6th, before August 6th, but to close any gaps. There are a couple gaps that will be there. There are some better things and there's some things they're a little short on. Earthquake, for whatever reason, it's starting to make me nervous. A lot of carriers are backing off on how much they'll cover in this area for earthquake. I don't know if they've got scientists monitoring things that we don't know about, but they wanted to lower the earthquake going up by about half, and there's no negotiation on that. So, concern, but in this area, it's not something a lot of us lose sleep over, but the fact that they're all kind of cutting back on that does make you wonder some things. However, we pick up cyber coverage. That's something I've proposed a few times. It's become more and more of a push for us to really push cyber coverage from everywhere, from a mom and pop retail boutique to a airport, national airport. Cyber's a big deal. This would not force it in, but it's included, so at least you've got something. I would still probably down the road recommend we do a little bit more comprehensive cyber policy than what this will offer, but it's more than what you've got now. So I don't want to get down into the weeds of this because, like I said, I honestly think there's a really good chance I will have a better option. Our worst case scenario is a 30% rate increase. It was actually 29, but the crime quote they gave me, I think they included 10,000, and I asked that to be bumped up to 100,000. It was like $132 a year. I thought that was money well spent, but it did make that number look worse because it went to 30 instead of 29. But we have seen some profitable municipalities this year come in at 9% rate increase anyway, plus exposure. So, plus building value. So, all in all, I know it's a big number. I know the situation is always a little tight. And I hate to say it could be worse, but it could be much worse than this in the situation we're in. So the second page of the handout is a coverage comparison. Great American is kind of the writing company we have this with now. I talked about some of the differences, and again, I will get down to the weeds in this. I'm sure I'm going to be before you within the next 30, 45 days. I just wanted to throw it out there where we're at today. Again, if you take some time, you might see a couple of differences. I'm confident we'll have them worked out. So, the third page of the attachment, that's kind of our marketing log, and that's a 2-pager. So, as I've told the council many times, the benefit of being with Epic on the property and casualty side is this is what we do. Even before we became part of Epic, HVG wrote a large percentage of the municipalities in the area. We have all of the horses. So if it's a legitimate, reputable municipal carrier, we have submitted it to them, we have typed a narrative, and we have made calls and sold this very hard. Sometimes it's harder to sell companies than it is the actual client. So we've told the story, we've talked about some of the changes the council's been through, some of the procedures we've improved upon. So we've told our story to all of these. Got a lot of declines. Loss history, not a lot of premium in the big picture being generated. So we've got some work to do. I appreciate Mr. Shagley's comments on the litigation. It's something we've got to be really, really careful about and avoid it at all possible. And I also understand the frustration of trying to get things done. So it's a balancing act. The issue that was brought up at the beginning of the meeting. Yeah.
Did they require did we have to fill out any questionnaire on the cybersecurity about what we're doing? And how
So on this one, no. So if we would go, I mentioned I would probably recommend doing a little bit more comprehensive policy. That would require that. And one of the reasons we didn't push this, I don't know if it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago when I made it. The last time we remarketed this, so it would have been 3 years. It's typically every 3 years we remarket it anyway. it was an issue. It's even tougher to get now. You have to have the multi-authentication systems in place.
All kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff. And it's a lot more expensive today than it was 2 or 3 years ago. Honestly, it's a headache getting it in place because you'll fill out more of an application trying to get cyber coverage than you will the whole town insurance and everything else. So there's a lot of things you have to have in place, but there are a lot of good things. There's a reason they require them to be in place. Because they're getting hit. Yeah. So, I mean, they don't want to pay a claim, but you don't want to have a claim either. So if we can prevent the claim from happening, we all win. So our costs go down, you pay less premium. So it is tough. And I'm sure that if we go down that side route, we will have a lot of changes we'll need to make and work with an IT team to get those in place. So it would be an issue. But what's covered on this policy, we do not have to do all of that.
What's covered by that policy?
So it's a lot of recovery. It's a lot of recovery. It's the initial breach. It's not going to go third party. It's not going to go real deep. So it's kind of a stopgap a little bit. So I would absolutely recommend going to Travelers Monoline, which is who we write a lot of cyber with, is Travelers, and we can do that monoline. They're comprehensive. You know, if you can get Travelers to write it, you don't have to worry about it as long as you keep your systems in place. So. I mentioned EMC, they're still reviewing. That's who I'm kind of banking on to come in. I'm optimistic. GenCap and JWF Specialty are both Epic companies or Epic brokerages. So they are sending this to other EMS carriers. It's kind of a worst case. We have also decided to look at carving things out. If it makes sense to write the property monoline and the GL somewhere else, I don't like splitting things up, but if it saves the town and we don't have any coverage gaps by doing it, we're looking at doing that. So we're trying to be as creative as we can. The auto as well. I think auto owners and state auto, if I remember right, are both looking at the auto solely, just the auto. So we are attacking this. When we received the non-renewal, we had already started marketing this. We had planned to anyway this year, so we weren't completely behind the 8 ball, but when you receive a non-renewal, it makes it a little bit more tough. So getting it 30 days out, it's tough to do. So that's kind of where we're at. I do want to spend some time, I know there's a lot left on your agenda, talking about the claims that we've had. It's the very last attachment. This is something when I sat down and had my initial meeting with Kelly, we talked a lot about loss control, some things we can do to turn the ship, to turn the tide. In looking through these claims, and this is a 2-pager as well, but in looking through these claims, you go through there, and all but I think 3 of them are things that we could have likely absolutely avoided. Now, with that being said, mistakes happen, right? We all run into trees or whatever it is. Mistakes happen, but there are some things we can come in and do. Just driver awareness training. You know, I know you're going to sit a group of guys down, a group of ladies down, and talk to them about paying attention while they're driving. It seems juvenile, but by making them do that and creating that culture of safety and awareness, it can have positive impacts. So we had a lot of, so those top auto claims, I would call those the frequency claims. None of them are huge, but they add up and they work against us. Until I came tonight, I thought we had 3 sewer backup type claims. When we learned tonight, there was a 4th. You know, I don't know what caused those. I don't know if there's an overriding problem, but we have an in-house loss control guy. He's on staff. He's in our office. He actually lives on State Road 42. He's been with us a long time. He can come and do some loss control and some training. What that does is, maybe it doesn't instantly change things in the limit claims, but what it does do next year, if we have a really good year, we take this out and they say, hey, look, the town's committed. You know, they've been doing a lot of this loss control training, trying to make people more aware. Hard to put a dollar value on that, but I can tell you when we're putting together our narrative and our sales pitch to the carriers, the more we have, the better. Frank, he's a good guy. He actually has been with Epic, who was with LMI forever through the mergers. As I said, he lived on 42. He drove to 96 in Meridian every day for 15 years, and then when we got the office in Greencastle, his drive got cut in half. So he's been a huge resource for us. That's something as we get past the renewal, we can talk about what those services will cost. He's in-house he does a lot, even if they're not our PNC clients, he still does it for other businesses. being a client, obviously it's heavily reduced what he would charge. The difference in bringing our guy in and doing loss control and bringing the company in and doing loss control, the company comes in and does loss control. They say, you have to do this or we're not gonna write you. Our guy comes in and says, look, here's some recommendations I would make, here's some things we can do, take it or leave it. So it's different from having the carrier come in and saying, you guys have to do this, because none of us like to be told, here's what we have to do. So there were some patterns. When I first looked at this, I thought, these are kind of all over the board. What type of loss control can we do? The awareness, we can't help it if a tree falls in the car, which I believe that might have been one of the ones we were talking about earlier in the meeting. But regardless, that again, not a wastewater expert, not a water expert, but there's a pattern of some issues there that I don't know what we can find if we brought somebody in to look at it. So you're a municipality, you're going to have tort claims. You're going to have frivolous tort claims. Several of these are, I hate to say it, ludicrous. I mean, I'm not going to identify them, but there are things there's absolutely nothing you can do about having somebody file. That's just the nature of what you're doing. We can loss control all we want, we can train all we want, we're still going to get crazy claims. And in fact, when I was getting explanations and updates on some of the responses I got were comical. But we did get that, sorry, jumping around, that sanitary sewer back up of 15,000. That actually just got closed today, I think. I don't know the details on that, but that got drug out for a while. I don't know if that was the one that Jason wanted us, was kind of pushing us to pay or not. That
Or $15,000 less.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we were trying to fight it. No. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Right, wrong, or indifferent. You can have that debate, but it's one of those things we got to find out. Okay, well, why did this keep happening to put us in this situation? So, something we can look at. And again, it might be random things. It might be all over the place. So, I guess that's where I'm at today. That is the worst case scenario, page 1, and that's not exact yet, so that changes we're going to make. But that's where we're at today. We have covered our bases. I have no doubt about that. We've sent it to the world. We've got the relationships. We are a very large municipal carrier in the state. Between our Greencastle office, our Indy office, Fort Wayne, and Evansville. We have a solid reputation. We can get some favors. Again, Trident offered this because of our relationship. I think coming elsewhere probably don't even get a quote. So I think we're being as creative as we can. We are definitely willing to talk about how we can work to get claims back down. And there's a lot we can do. I think I put on there are a couple carriers that said they'll be at the end of the month, and I know it's an August 6th renewal. I'll be happy to pull the trigger earlier on something that we've got, but I think it might be something that I've got to either call Kelly, or if she's got to have a special meeting, come down and say, here's what we've got. It's the best offer, because if I can get somebody to come in at a $8,000, $10,000 increase, I want to do it. I'm not promising that in any way, shape, or form, but it's definitely possible. So I did this year. This is on the agenda anyway. Before this increase, state tort statute is $5 million. Currently, we are carrying $1 million per occurrence, $1 million umbrella. We do have a $3 million aggregate. Proposed this a couple of times to bump that umbrella limit up to where we've got a total of $5 million. Not done in the past. I ran the quote. It's kind of $5,500 to do that. So I know it's a tough year to try to sell you on more, but to do my job, I've got to bring that to your attention that the limit is $5 million. So and of course, cyber crime we can dive into, but that's what we got today. Welcome any questions from the council.
On the cyber part,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that covers, as far as phones, laptops, computers, etc., the whole.
Yeah, and the great thing about cyber is it covers hard files as well. Ironically, somebody breaks in and steals your paper files. A lot of times people will steal those and then go online and create cyber issues. So, oddly enough, our office was broken into 2 weeks ago. We came in on Monday morning and somebody had absolutely ransacked our office. And drawers were open, files were open, and I'm like, who in their right mind would rob an insurance agency that doesn't take cash payments? I mean, but, we don't mean that. But, yeah, they ransacked our office. Luckily, we're paperless. Hard to find anything in there, but they sure as heck looked and tried. So, even covers that. type of deal. So, it's pretty broad.
So-
Third party, social engineering's a big one too. You guys ask specifics. So Kelly probably gets a lot of bills. Duke Energy, actually it happened, not to them, but one of our clients received an invoice, Duke Energy logo on it. Looked like every other invoice they paid, the mailing address was different. Later cut the check, you know, it wasn't Duke Energy. So there are a lot of things like that that are out there now that you've got to be aware of that protects you from, so.
So you said you were still going back and forth with Trident, is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah, a couple things on Trident, welcome to get into it. So on the employee benefits, they offer a claims made form. Before we had it on an occurrence form. This is getting down in the weeds, but 2 different forms that if you go from one to the other creates a gap, because what triggers a claim on a claim form is a claim being filed. So whoever had the insurance when the claim was filed, that's who pays it. On an occurrence form, it's whenever the claim occurs. So in this case, if we remove this form, they've either got to come in line with my form, or we've got to buy something called tail coverage to cover the 2-year statute for the next 2 years. It's a very common thing, we go move carriers, but it's something we want to fix either way. And if it means we got to pay another $500 for the 2 years of tail coverage, fine. We've got to have that coverage.
Claims being paid now.
On the employee benefits, I guess we're going back to the health insurance. I don't want to talk about health insurance, but I've not gotten an update where our benefits team is in that. I know that's a mess.
Are we hearing any more from our employees?
I haven't heard anything else. The last I heard that everything is paid.
My last one was paid.
Yeah, and I personally am extremely happy that you all were able to find a good solution on the health insurance. I've told Kelly many times, you know, I felt like we stepped in, we were trying to get you out of a tough situation. I never dreamt that it would cause the headache that it did, and I'm glad that the town found a good solution for that. So I think I know our team worked really hard to get us out of that, but at the end of the day, BK took on a lot more than they could chew really quick. So, but I'm glad you're in a better spot now. Again, my knowledge, I thought those claims had kind of been ironed out, but happy to go back to the other side of the aisle and talk to them about it if I need to, but
One of my guys said that they were like paid all the same day.
there you go, there you go. I know, I mean, I think we ended up chasing after the president of the company, I believe, so. I can't do that, but he's able to go after him personally and track him down, so that was,
Did any of our employees get turned over to collections or anything? Any problems?
They got letters that they were, but apparently they got them paid on the same day, so.
yeah, that was a bad deal. Again, I mean, you were already with a sinking ship that was dissolving, and, you know, that was the solution we had, was that or a 30 to 40% Anthem or United rate increase, and obviously nobody wanted that. Yeah, I do apologize. I feel like we did what we were supposed to, tried to find a solution, but it did not turn out how we would have hoped, obviously. So I will tell you that the agent that I brought down here, not that anybody should feel sorry for him, right? You guys weren't essentially the victims on this, but he's been with us, I think, 6 years now. He said, you know, that's the first account that I've ever lost. He had never written an account and had it leaving, so it was a new one for him, and he was very happy that you guys found the trust and, you know, are there. So I know I'm happy about it. I said from day one, when we get benefits involved, I never wanted to affect the PNC relationship, and that was one of the things. I don't feel we did anything, you know, wrong, but it, you know, creates a little pain there and a little doubt. I understand that, so and I hate it, but anyway. So yeah, the employee benefits gap is something we would have to cover, and we will. That's something that won't be an issue. It's just something that, as of today, I'm still going back and forth on how best to handle it. But it is a benefit of making sure we don't create any gaps when we make a change on the carrier, because they can happen.
So when do you anticipate having final numbers on it?
EMC said the end of the month, so I'm not going to tell you, I don't want to tell you the 20th and not have it. So I will tell you prior to August 1st is when I've been promised by all these carriers to have it in. I hope they are under promising and will over deliver and get it quicker. I can assure you we are on our end going to push. But as I said, when I said, well, that's not acceptable, they said, okay, we'll close our file. So yeah, they pushed harder than I did on that. So And on the same way, I had to sell this one to them, right? I mean, they're looking at this because we've got a lot of other business with them, and I'm not gonna say they're doing us a favor, but this is a snapshot of this account right now is tough with all the litigation, so.
So once the town decides to go whatever route,
Yeah,
how long until it takes into effect once it's in agreement?
yeah, actually have a 30-day binding authority, so
Okay.
technically it renews on, we would never go past the renewal date, but once you accept it, I mean, we can make it effective that minute, so. I'm not a last minute person, I don't wanna wait until the last minute, I hate it, I like to have my rules put to bed 30 days out. It makes my life easier, I mean, it's, you know, but I know it makes your life easier, I mean, but sometimes it's, yeah, kind of mercy, so. Hopefully it made, I hope that we feel a little bit better about having an option. I know Kelly was nervous when she got it, so. Hopefully knowing that we're not gonna have to take a huge coverage hit, that triple premium or anything like that is, you know, viewed as a positive, but, and again, I wanna work with you to mitigate these claims the best we can moving forward. Any operating procedures needed to help you review, we have Xyway, we have systems to do that, any training manuals, OSHA compliance, we've got access to help you with all of that training, in our agency, happy to do so.
Okay, anything else?
There's probably going to be a special meeting at some point at the end of the month when you have final numbers. So we can review, because the next council meeting is not until the second Tuesday in August.
I'm probably gonna need a special meeting too, so.
Okay. So just as soon as you know, please let us know so we can get these advertised.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
I'm kind of speaking from a citizen. You obviously were vague with the claims.
Yeah.
Were some of those medical claims, and that's why?
No.
Or these are town claims?
No, none of them were health insurance.
Does the
claims.
town have a policy where we're only going to file it with insurance if it's above a certain dollar amount? Because it sounds like if we're filing $100 claims, those are going to, I mean,
No.
I don't know that because I don't have a list, but it made it sound like some of those are.
No, I mean, definitely not even $100 claims. I think the smallest one we actually paid out was well over, I mean, it's public information, right? We can talk about it. I think the smallest claim we actually paid out on was $2,500. That was an auto claim.
That doesn't mean that's not what they were asking for, that's just what was paid out.
Correct, so,
So
yeah.
just because we paid out 2,500, it could start out as 1 million or 100,000 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's simply what was paid out.
And there's this, I guess the second place claim to your point, Mr. Shadley, we only paid out $3,700, but they were asking for a lot more than that. So town would have no choice but to get our
And
defense on
if we
there.
don't turn the claim in a window, then they can deny it because we didn't notify them. So it's,
Right.
you know, you get it, you turn it over just to protect the town in itself.
Right.
And were any of those claims due to like employee negligence?
I would say no. I mean, when you talk negligence, we all do things like backing into a pole. Like it can happen in our driveway. I don't know if you want to define that as negligence, but maybe do anything that cause bodily injury to someone else or anything like that. I mean, then I'm talking auto claims.
Sure.
You know, so, but, you know, the big monster is that it's a whole nother topic. You know.
No, you can't talk about it.
Yeah,
Sure.
right,
So don't talk.
Oh, no, absolutely
Yeah,
not,
okay.
absolutely not, so, but, yeah, so I would not, I don't know how you determine negligence when it comes to an auto accident. I mean, we bump into something.
So it was just a year of a lot of bad luck, basically.
Yeah, we look back at a 5-year history on these, that's how insurance usually looks at it, so, yeah. Yep.
When do we want to have a special meeting?
I think it depends on when we get the.
Depends on when he gets the.
Well, we have to have it before August 6th, don't we?
Yeah, I think so, that's when our.
Deadline's the end of the month for him.
Right. So that first week in August, let's see what the date's on. That's on 24.
Monday, that whole week.
Well,
The second, I think.
So what other day that week? I mean, are you guys available that week?
Well, we can't do it that Thursday because it's the first of the month, so we'll have BZA planning.
Yeah, we could-
There's nothing on the agenda right now for.
This is a meeting. I still won't get everything emailed in the packet beforehand, so it'll be a.
I just need to, we should have the quick claims for McDonald's Road. We just need to accept it with that. I mean, that's the only thing I need to add to that agenda if we could. The date, I'm sure I can have it done before then.
But you could accept those today. Oh, that's fine.
Well, you've done.
But there'll still be three, so it's still
So
okay.
as soon as I get those signed, then we'll just accept it, I guess.
Let's just go with Tuesday, the second.
I think Tuesday the second, so the best option. Are you available? So.
What time?
Tuesday.
Since it's a short meeting, can we do 6?
Just for you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
thank you. SRO,
It's just time for the annual renewal of the memorandum of understanding. And this is just, it's called the addendum to the memorandum of understanding, it's just renewing our SRO contract with the school, Cloverdale Community School Corporation for 1 more year. It's just agreeing to the same terms that we've been under. The school board did adopt it yesterday, and they have signed their portion, and so it's just presented to town council if they would like to renew that as well.
Yeah, and also, I've had some communication with the superintendent, and they are looking at, they want a second SRO. And they're trying to see how they might be able to fund it internally, the school completely. They just want to know if we would have one available, which we've got one of our reserves that would fit that bill, so. They're talking about funding the whole thing. He's supposed to get back with me on that.
Okay.
do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we go ahead and adopt the SRO.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
And there are 2 copies, and then one will be the school's copy and one will be the town's copy, so please send both of those, please.
And Kelly, you want to go ahead and talk about the EAS renewal?
This is just the service contract that we have with EAS, which is our IT, our tech support. It's up for renewal, actually it was up for renewal earlier this year, and then just, it took a while to get the contract, and then some other things, we're running a little bit late. There is, like everything else, they've increased the price a little bit. I did go back and look at how many hours of service that we used last year, and the price that it would have been, all that, and it was right about a break even, whether we would have paid a la carte or whether we would have done the service contract. So I kind of think the service contract is a good idea because it is so close, and that way if anything does happen, we're covered. I will say, my experience and most of the experience I've had with people was their service is really good. They usually fix our issues fairly quickly and then the costs.
That was, do you want to go ahead and tell them what you told me yesterday?
I'm not sure.
How much you paid, or how much you would have paid last year, or,
Oh, yeah, it was almost identical to what we paid for the service contract. If we would have paid it out of pocket, it would have been the same. So,
I'm sorry.
A little easier to budget when you're doing the service.
it is.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah,
And if something does happen, you will,
Yeah, we
for
will
sure go
cover
over
it.
that.
got a regular pick it up.
Yes, true.
And did.
I missed it. I'm sure whatever it was, I deserved it.
So So you're agreeing to it? Perfect.
Do I have a motion to approve the EAS renewal?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. American Legal Publishing Contract.
This, in 2017, the town entered a contract, and what that does is to codify our town ordinances. With that contract, we were allowed, we have provision to do 2 supplements. This would be the second of that supplement. That contract had just about expired. We were due for one more supplement. Basically, what that allows us to do is just submit the laws that haven't been codified yet. They will do that for us and just basically send us the pages to fill in our book and then add the online stuff. So we're only paying per page, so it's a smaller cost. We're not having to do a big project and overlook all of our laws again. I think I gave you the original contract in your packet for you to look over, and then also the email. I sent him all of our laws that were enacted in 2019 and 2021. That those had not been codified yet, and I sent that to him, and he came back with a quote that it said it'd be just over $4,000 to get those supplementally added to the town code. So I think it's just something we just have to do on a regular basis to just make sure our laws are all up to date and put online.
Okay, we need a motion for that.
Yes.
A motion to approve American Legal Publishing Contract.
Make a motion.
I will second it. All in favor? Aye. Stardust Hills, HOA.
Hello, everybody. So we did the fireworks show, and it was a hit. We had increased attendance from the year before, and we've already, we're looking forward to doing a 3rd one next year, so. I don't think I've announced this yet, but the entryway to the clubhouse that we talked about before, we've got some nice flowers planted, the signs upgraded. We're upgrading a lot of our signs in the HOA. I think it looks really nice. It lights up at night too. So thanks for letting us utilize that. And then we're appreciative that we're going to have our storm drain board this year, next month. Is it our annual meeting? Here in 2 weeks?
It's the 21st.
Is that going to be the only one this year? Or will
I
have
don't
one?
know, that's
Okay.
normal board.
Okay. And we're willing to offer the clubhouse if there's ever a scheduled conflict. Feel free to utilize that for the meeting.
That's
Okay.
anytime meeting with that conference room, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Old business, Town Hall Security System. Any comments?
Do we have an active proposal?
Yeah, I think Steve may have, I don't know.
What's in the packet was the last one that I was given. I think that's the one that was,
And that was, we discussed that, the date was inaccurate on the last meeting, is that?
yes, but the date, they just hadn't changed the date.
Okay.
They had updated cameras, let me see on what line. Yes, the one in your packet has a section of lines where they added 2 cameras. They're about 1, 2, it's like in the 3rd section down. 2 cameras were added there after they talked with Steve, and so they just didn't change the date on the estimate, but that is the,
That's the current proposal.
yes.
So we've had some vandalism. And we've talked about the cameras for months. I think it's time to go ahead and approve it so we can start moving forward on getting our security system updated.
Was the vandalism part?
Yes.
Okay. Can the park connect to Wi-Fi down there, the cameras?
I believe the park has, Wi-Fi is provided free, I think, at the park.
Right. And The camera should be able to hit that Wi-Fi, correct?
It'll work. The line of sight good? It's got good line of sight.
It'd be pretty much, well, this is cameras for the park itself,
Right.
so, yeah, it could be line of sight.
Yeah, we talked about this late last year, I think, almost a year ago now. Yeah, we're beaming the signal from a tower or something. How many feet is it? Do we know?
That was the water tower at I-70. And that's not an issue right now.
Okay.
Would the cameras prevent vandalism?
Won't prevent it, but it will record it.
I mean, would if the cameras were proposing to put it, caught it?
Hopefully.
It would have caught them entering and exiting.
We would have visual, at least to help Steve do his investigation, to find out who's responsible. And I think if we promote the signage that things are under camera surveillance, it's probably going to be a deterrent.
Yeah.
Jason, did the vendor that we're talking to feel like that signal would be able to beam okay over to the cameras from the Wi-Fi?
I haven't talked to her about that.
Okay.
I know Steve had conversation with him. But I think there is Wi-Fi at the park.
I think there's, yeah.
Or
There
there's
is
a sign
Wi-Fi.
that says it's provided.
Yeah.
I've never really hooked it up, but I assume it works.
Okay.
So. Or there was a sign, I think the sign's still there, isn't it? There used to be a sign that said free
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. is
Yes.
Yeah,
And it
there is.
works.
They did have two back-to-back, it wasn't back-to-back nights, but it was in about the same week period of time. The first one was kind of just a joke, where I'm assuming kids put a picnic table in the bathroom and got the door shut, which was quite a feat, honestly. They had to have really worked at it. We had 3 guys out there lifting and moving, and it was not easy to get it out. And I don't have issue, I mean, that's probably not appropriate to do, but, you know, those are kids. What happened the second time was not acceptable. You know, when you're destroying property, we have broken toilets, broken sinks, that's not acceptable.
And we've been working on this security system for months, so I think it's just time to go ahead and move forward.
Okay, is that a motion?
That's a motion that we go ahead and move forward under security systems.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Guardrails?
He's laughing.
I will get on those, I promise.
Okay, I just might mention that Troop 93 Boy Scouts was here maybe last month, and we got a thank you card from them. And is there anything else?
I have a question.
Sure.
One of my customers, just this past week, purchased a tap fee for their new home at Stardust Hills on Elconda Drive, and they were advised there was still going to be an additional $100 inspection fee. I wondered what changed.
Jason?
I'll look at the code,
I can see the wheels turning, but
yeah, I don't remember, I'll just have to look at code. And this is something you can call me about at any time.
Well, I just found out.
Okay, well, I know that this is one of those things where you call me,
Today, I
I'll
just
look
found
at
out
the
about it today.
code. It's just easier to call me and I'll look at the code and give you the answer.
We're ready basically to have a conference with the utility folks about placement of this and that out there on that lot on Elconda Drive.
I know we had a tap fee today that paid the tap fee and $100 inspection fee.
Pardon me?
We had that today, it was actually out of town. It was $1,500 for the out of town tap fee and $100 inspection fee.
For out of town.
Yes, I know that happened today, I've receipts on my desk.
Well, we've never had $100 inspection fees in addition to the tap fee in town.
Exactly, and I'll look to see if that's in code, honestly, I can't give you the answer, but
Not to my knowledge, in 35 years.
I will look, if you call me, I can look that stuff anytime.
Okay.
Okay, one other thing, Rick Deerwester has resigned from the board. He no longer lives in the community. He has done his due diligence to resign with us and resign with the county. And we are looking for someone to replace him. And that being said, does council want to reelect from the four of us, or would you like to wait until we get his position replaced, then elect the president? What's your thoughts?
We need to have an active president in the position. I can't see the legalities of it. We need to fill that position.
Yeah, I mean, you could, I would suggest having a brand new council person be your president. It'd only be a 5-month term, but.
Correct. Well, I'm not saying
Yeah.
he would be president, but do we want to wait until whoever is brought on board to,
You could do it either, you could wait or you could do it now. If you want to allow more time for campaigning, I totally understand
You don't have the time frame as to.
For long term, I think you have
that. Get your billboards up and stuff like that, TV ad.
I think you got a question in the audience.
We have an opening on redevelopment with Rick's departure.
correct?
My understanding is that seat can't be filled except by the president. Can the board designate somebody to fill that seat for us?
I think they can, yeah.
Anybody want? First, do you want to do a presidency?
Gotta get a full board going first.
I think if, just my opinion, I think if we don't have to have a president for signatures or signing off on said documents, I think it's wise if we wait till we're,
Okay. So then as a board, I think you could then appoint. Do you need that appointment in the next 30 days?
Not necessarily, but as soon as possible. We want to
Dave
put
is actually the vice president of the development
somebody
redevelopment.
to fill the president.
So he's wanting somebody to fill it so he doesn't have to take care of the
You can do that in August 2nd as well.
Yeah, we could, yeah,
Yes, we should.
you should know by then.
Yeah, we should have a, we should have our council by then.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions from the audience or answers? Council, any other things? Meeting adjourned.